All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining today. My name is Laurel Skiff. I'm from BAE Systems, and I'm pleased to be your moderator today for this panel, Finding and Using Your Voice in STEM. We have a really exciting discussion for you all. We're going to explore some of the challenges and opportunities for women in STEM fields. Our three panelists, who will introduce themselves in a moment, represent different industries, and they have a plethora of advice to offer based on their personal experiences in STEM fields. We have some topics lined up for our panelists to discuss, but you will also have an opportunity to ask questions. So I would encourage you at any time, type your questions into the Whova app session Q&A, and we'll pull some of your questions from there throughout today's session. So without further delay, let's meet our panelists today. Leslie, would you like to start with an introduction?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Buckley. I am the Division Vice President of Engineering and Technical Operations for Comcast.
Wonderful. How about you, Katie?
Hi, my name is Katie Fredette. I am from Manchester, New Hampshire, and I work at BAE Systems. I graduated from Clarkson University in 2017 with a degree in information systems, and I'm currently continuing my education, doing a master's in IT and my MBA. I'm in a 3-year rotational program at BAE Systems called the IT Leadership Development Program, which means I rotate to different positions over 3 years to get a view of the company, with the ultimate goal coming out of it being a leader eventually within the company. I currently work as a systems analyst, which means I work as a liaison between the business and our IT department to develop modern IT solutions to help solve business problems. And I also work as a developer, creating anything from data models to web apps. And I'm very excited to be here today with you.
That's great, thank you. And last but not least, Naoka.
Hi everyone, my name is Naoka Ganawardina. I am an FRC alum of a team out of Pittsburgh called the Girls of Steel, or FRC Team 3504. I got my bachelor's in science in mechanical engineering from Yale. And while I was there, I kind of found my passion for medical devices through an internship at DECA, which is where I work now, and also a small startup that I was a part of called WellLinks, where we worked on sensor technology for wearable medical devices. So that kind of led me to my career now, where I work at DECA. I've been a mechanical engineer there for about 2.5 years, and I'm working on the design team of a medical device. And I'm really excited to be here today, so thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I look forward to this discussion. So let's get started. As we all know, women are currently underrepresented in STEM fields and are presented with challenges that perhaps their male colleagues aren't encountering. So Katie, I wonder if you can provide your insight on some of the challenges you face pursuing a career in a STEM field and how you've overcome those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. So personally, I have been very lucky to not face a lot of adversity while pursuing my career in STEM, and now working in my career as a young IT professional. And I really think that has to do with the generations that came before me, who really paved the way and made it a lot easier for women to join the STEM field. That's not to say my generation does not face adversity. I think it does, and I think that's why we're having this panel today, and I think it's very important to talk about it. But my biggest challenge is honestly the lack of females in the STEM world. And I know that sounds silly because that's what the panel is about, but it shows up for me in 2 ways. One is a lack of female role models. I didn't know that STEM was an option, or that I liked computer science, or that I could be an engineer or an IT professional. And it wasn't until I joined FIRST that I realized that that was an option for me. And even then, I think the lack of female mentors and the female engineers at the time, it was hard to really know what being a female in STEM looked like, or really imagine yourself in that position. And the second way it shows up for me is just a lack of female peers. I think that's a challenge because sometimes you feel like you don't fit in or you don't belong there and you get that kind of imposter syndrome. But I think it's really important to remember that you do belong and that you do deserve to be there and you do deserve to have a spot at the table. I think you have to be confident and bold and not be afraid to speak up. I think talking about the gender gap in STEM is really important and to keep that conversation going, to bring awareness to the issue. And I also think it's really important to get young girls exposed to STEM at an early age to really get them excited about it. So yeah.
So if it's okay, Laurel, if I could just jump in for a moment. So Katie, it warms my heart to hear you say that, you haven't run into as many obstacles. And so, being probably 1 or 2 generations ahead of you, what I would say is that that the work continues needs to be done, as you stated. I think it's I'm a non-traditional in the engineering and tech field. So I don't have an engineering degree. I don't have a technology degree, but I found myself 20 years ago with this opportunity to grow a career in tech and engineering. And it's been fascinating. I've loved every moment of it, but oftentimes I've had to forge my way through and really create that path. And so as I think about my go forward, I am heavily invested in, ensuring I'm mentoring, creating opportunities and pathways for girls and for women, and letting folks know what an exciting field this is, because it really is a lot of fun. You get to make such an impact on the world, on products, on services. And, as women, we absolutely need that seat at the table.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for that. So we don't have any questions from the audience yet. So we'll move on to our next topic. In addition to the students that we have on the call today, we also have a lot of adults who are mentors and coaches and parents and in other, supporting roles in the future of women in STEM. So Leslie, I'd love to ask you about some of the ways that we can advocate for ourselves and for others, both professionally and personally.
So I truly believe that, as women professionals in this field, again, it's our responsibility to pay it forward. So in terms of being, involved in community activities, involved in STEM events out in schools and out in the community, I think is really important, because young girls need to see women in those roles, and as well as young men. So I think that's really important. What I would say is, as you go along, through your school, through your early part of your career, it's really about building a network, both personally and professionally, and building that network and creating those connections and kind of collecting them along the way, because everybody's going to be able to give you something to carry you forward, whether you're struggling, as the only girl in an engineering class at school and you're on a project. How do you manage that? So I think those things are really important. Just keep collecting that village, that network of support.
Yeah, if I could add on to that, I think it's really important when you're young in your career to get a mentor, whether that be a professor in college or someone who works at your company or outside of your company. It's really important to build that network, but to have a mentor who has been through those situations before and can walk you through those situations. But also, yeah, I agree. It's really important to pay it forward, whether that be like volunteering in the community, volunteering with Girls Who Code, any organization that really gets girls excited in STEM.
Yeah, from the standpoint of starting to advocate for women and girls on your teams, on FRC teams, I came from a unique team where I was on an all-girls team. So girls were doing everything. We were doing the mechanical work, we were coding, we were doing the business work, we were fundraising. So there was kind of no sort of gender gap that was noticeable on our team because everybody was doing everything and everybody was a woman. So I think that's something that co-ed teams can take away from single gender teams, is giving people the opportunities to pursue every single avenue that FRC provides. It's so cool that you can learn technical skills and learn business skills. And I think everybody should be learning all of those skills when they participate in an FRC team. So I would just highly recommend that mentors kind of be on the lookout for students who might be interested in expanding their reach into other sub-teams and maybe are too shy or don't know kind of how to get there. So just kind of keeping an eye out for those students and making sure that everybody's getting all the opportunities.
Great, thank you guys so much for your perspective on that. Of course, we know, FIRST has a fantastic mission to encourage students to pursue these careers in STEMs. But Naoka, I wonder if you could tell us your thoughts on why these careers matter so much and why it's so important for individuals to stay technical.
Sure. So I think an obvious answer is that there are so many opportunities in the STEM fields that are emerging. Lots of new and exciting things. I think a lot of you heard from Army earlier, who are right next door to DECA. They're doing really cool things in regenerative medicine. So just there's a lot of really cool new avenues that are coming out of STEM fields. So there are a lot of opportunities in terms of career. But other than that, being a technical person, having a background in engineering or technical skills, you're learning a lot of critical thinking and problem solving skills that will help you in any career. So whether you decide to continue down the road as an engineer or as a technical person, you'll have skills that will benefit you in really any aspect of a job. So I think that's why it's really important.
So let me just jump in here for a moment. So I'm so passionate about this. As we think about women in tech and girls in STEM and the critical importance that it has, right? All of us use technology all day long, every day. And we need to be at the table, participating, leading, creating, because that's what, we want a woman's point of view in any services, any new technology we create. That's our thumbprint on society and on the future. And if we're not at the table, a woman's perspective, if we're not there from a technology perspective, then we're missing out on that diverse perspective that a woman can bring.
Right, yeah, and women having a place at the table, I mean, it really shows to everybody else that women can do STEM just as well as anybody else. There's no reason that we're not as smart as anybody else. So I think it really paves the way for future generations.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for that response. We do not have any questions from students yet, but if you guys do have questions, please go ahead and type them in the Whova app. I'd love to ask, obviously, all of our panelists, you're working for companies that embrace women in STEM and providing those opportunities. But I wonder if anybody would like to comment on some examples of some critical changes that need to be made to foster a more inclusive environment for women in the workplace. Naoka, I'd love to hear from you first, and then Leslie and Katie after.
Sure, yeah. I think just representation is really important. When I first joined my team at DECA, I was joining a team of all men who had been in their careers already for like 20 plus years, and I was straight out of undergrad. So that was really intimidating. And I think at first it was hard for me to adjust because I didn't kind of have that representation of other women on my team to look to and to have as mentors. So I think that one thing that companies can do is kind of looking to build those networks of women at their companies, providing mentorship opportunities for younger engineers or employees from women who are further along in their careers. I think that's really important, and it's not obvious who those people are immediately when you first join a company. So I think it's important for employers to kind of try to actively make those opportunities happen for newer employees so you don't lose them along the way.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think it's those stewardship moments as new female engineers and technologists come into the business. It's critical that they have a safe circle of folks who can help them along in the journey. You know, I would say, you know, oftentimes still in my career, I'm the only woman at the table. And so reaching out and really creating an internal network of other women technologists is so important. And to your point, as we bring new people in, we've got to make sure that, you know, all of the tools, the mentorship, the coaching and the stewardship, as I like to call it, is intact. And if it's not, we have to create it so that we can make sure that we continue to have that pipeline. And, you know, we need to create safe spaces for women of, you know, all places within their career to have those conversations where, you know, how do I get my voice heard at a table? Or, you know, I work with this, you know, I work with a person who is, you know, kind of minimizes me sometimes. How do I manage that? Because those are real conversations that happen in the workplace, and we've got to create those safe spaces to continue to help women build their confidence, know that they are in those roles for a reason, and they're invited to the table. So to have that voice at the table.
Just to add on to that, I think training and having conversations like this and getting the topic about the gender gap and like subtle biases that we face every day, I think it's really important to get that out in the open with all employees and hear all employees like input on that. I think it's the more we talk about it, the more I think it will solve the problem. I still hear things on calls sometimes like, hello, gentlemen and lady. So I hear things like that all the time. So it's just those subtle things. Or like we had a position open and they're like, the next guy who gets that is going to do a really good job. So it's just those subtle things that I think we need to talk about more and have training on. And BAE has started to do that. And I think it's incredible that we have those conversations and that we're not afraid of those conversations.
Absolutely, removing that stigma is so important. So you're all in different industries and you're in different phases of your career. And so I'm curious, you know, as you think about younger women who may be just contemplating a career in STEM or maybe just starting out, what's the one thing that you wish you knew when you were first contemplating a career in STEM that you didn't, but that you would offer as advice for that younger generation? Leslie, do you have any thoughts on that?
So I essentially fell into, like I said, I don't have, you know, my undergraduate degrees and my master's degree is not in technology. So I fell into a STEM career. And one of the things that I wish I had known is I wish I hadn't been afraid to have a focus in science and technology and engineering. Once I got into the field, I realized how much fun it is, you know, what a difference and what an impact I can make. And that, yes, I can do this and I'm pretty good at it too. So somehow I wish I, you know, had learned that it's not anything to be afraid of. It's actually a lot of fun.
Right, yeah. And something Naoka actually touched on earlier. So I also was really afraid to get into the STEM field, that I was going to fail, that I wasn't going to be as good as anybody else because I was shy. I didn't see a lot of girls in STEM, so I didn't feel comfortable just throwing myself into that situation. And Naoka touched on this earlier, but it's really important for mentors when they're mentoring FRC teams to kind of help pull kids in that direction towards STEM. When I had first joined FRC, I was really afraid and I just kind of like stood with my group of friends. But I was really lucky to have a group of mentors who were like, Katie, why don't you go try being on the mechanical engineering team? So I think that getting over that fear, having a mentor, having somebody to encourage you and be on your team, I think that's really beneficial.
Yeah, I guess one last thing I would say is that you don't need to have it all figured out right now. So if you know you like STEM, you know you like engineering and technology, go for it. You don't need to know exactly what you want to do with that career moving forward. I think that things will fall into place and you'll figure that out. I went into college thinking I was going to do planetary robotics and work for NASA. And then I found out that I loved medical devices and that was where my passion was. So, and that might change in 10 years, I don't know. So I think just kind of go with the flow, but if you know that you're interested and you have a passion for technology and engineering, then go for it and don't force yourself or pressure yourself to have all the answers right now, because you'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's really wonderful insight for folks that are just starting out. So I'm curious, this is a question that I would likely ask anybody in any field, but I think sometimes, it can be cumbersome for us to think about, working in such a high energy field such as STEM and still having time to, do the things that we like to do and spend time with our family. So curious if you guys have any insight on balancing your work life and your personal life. Katie, if you'd like to start.
Sure. Yeah. So this is a question that's really near and dear to my heart because I'm just starting my career and I'm trying to figure this out myself. Especially with COVID, I'm finding it harder to put the work down because both my personal computer and my work computer are at my desk. So now I can just keep my work computer open. And when I see an email at 6 p.m., I want to answer the email at 6 p.m. I don't want to wait until the next day. So that barrier has kind of broken down with COVID. But I think it's really important for your health and for your relationships with your family that you find hobbies outside of work, you find things that you like to do. I've recently picked up cycling, so I really made a point to make myself stop working at like 5:30 and go out for a bike ride. And I also think that's really important to maintain your relationship with your family too, and not just stay working all the time. And I am not a parent. I only have a husband. So something that kind of like looms over me is, how eventually I will manage being a parent if I have children and working. I see that that's still a challenge that, women who are working are, still trying to tackle. So I'm really interested to see, what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm someone who likes to keep pretty strict schedules and likes to stay with a routine. So I definitely try to make sure that I have certain hours that I'm at my work computer and then I leave it for the day. There are always going to be days where you need to work extra hard and get something done. And that's okay when you need to do that. But if it can wait till tomorrow, then you need to accept that it can wait till tomorrow and give yourself some time to rest. I think that's really important for me. I really like to do things like volunteering after work. So I always have to make sure that I'm giving myself enough time to do those things, eat dinner, get in an episode of TV, talk to my family, and not overburden myself with just working all day. And I think Katie hit the nail on the head with COVID has kind of blurred those lines. I'm currently sitting at my dining room table, which is also my office now. So it's hard to kind of set that aside when you're in the same space all day, but it's really important to kind of set those barriers for yourself.
Well, it sounds like the two of you, I could learn, my 20 years ago, I could have learned a lot from both of you. What I would say is, in my experience, your life is never going to be fully balanced, right? Some days it's going to be, at the end of a month, one of my mentors said to me, if you can look back at the end of a month and say, I got pretty good balance, that's how you want to look at it. There are going to be some days as you journey through your career that, you're going to have to give a little bit more to work, or as you have a family, you may have to give a little bit more to your family. So just knowing that, and then, you know, being easy on yourself. And I think one of the things that COVID has taught me and some of my colleagues is you have to be intentional. Shut that laptop off, shut that computer off at the end of the day, and go and do something for yourself. Because you want to make sure that you've got sustainability. So whether it's school or work, you want to make sure that you've got some time for, I always like to say, do something for your mind, your body, and your spirit every day. And, you can find that good balance.
Yeah, that's such wonderful advice. No matter what field you're in, super important that we're taking care of our emotional and social well-being. So we've talked a little bit about advocacy. We've talked about role models. We've talked about breaking down some of the social barriers that exist. But I want to address maybe some of the mental boundaries that might hold women back from entering STEM fields, kind of feeling unsure, whether or not they actually belong. So Naoka, I wonder if you could tell me, how do we know that we're good enough to sit at that table?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is something I struggled with when I first started my career. Like I was saying, I joined a team of very experienced male engineers. And I was really nervous that I wasn't going to know enough, or I wasn't going to be contributing enough to the team. And very quickly, they were giving me lots of responsibilities. I was leading meetings on my own and kind of having ownership of different things. And I think to me, that's kind of what sealed the deal. I was like, hey, they really respect me. They respect the work I'm doing. I know I'm doing good work. I'm doing the best I can. And I'm asking questions when I need to. So I think it is kind of all in your head. I think everybody is good enough to sit at the table. If you get that job, you're meant to be there. But it is a mental barrier that you need to overcome. And I think part of that comes with getting feedback from your peers, knowing that you have their trust and respect, and just being able to speak up for yourself if you feel like you aren't getting those things. So.
I absolutely agree with you. You know what, I tell some of the women and men that I mentor, I'll have conversations with them that, if you're invited to the meeting, you have, that's your ticket in. So sit at the table, sit strategically at the table, study that agenda ahead of time, know what questions you want to ask or what contributions you want to make. And as you do that, it builds confidence over and over again. One of the things I highly encourage, if you're invited to that meeting or you're invited to that collaboration team, sit, up front, own your spot, and then create some allies, because sometimes it can feel like, well, we have that, I think Katie said it earlier, may have that imposter syndrome, or do I really belong here? And if you can create an ally within your team or, at that meeting, that's really helpful as well.
Yeah. And aside from mental barriers as well, I think some women who are working in STEM feel like they have to prove themselves a little bit more when they are working. So, maybe they have to, explain more about their solution or do extra work to show that they belong there just as much. But yeah, it also is mental too. It's overcoming that imposter syndrome. So in my case, I just try to stay continuously up to date. I'm trying to teach myself new material. I'm taking grad classes to build my own confidence, to make me feel like I belong there. But yeah, everybody deserves to sit at the table. And if you were accepted into that position or you were accepted into that grad school, you belong there.
Absolutely, sound advice. So you've all provided such valuable insight based on your experience. To wrap things up today, I'd like to kind of have you guys just think back on your journey in STEM And just give us a final thought, something you want to leave with our audience today, key takeaway for them as they think about their future STEM career or begin their STEM career here after the first robotics season.
So I'll start, a few things I would share with all of you. Own your voice. There's power in everything that you say and everything that you do. And you're smart and you're talented. Be confident and own your voice. Start to build your village, build your network, build it now. And as you go through your school career and start your journey in a STEM career, ask people to mentor you. People love to be asked to, mentor folks and support them. So own your voice for that piece as well. The one thing I would also share with you is be authentic. Be who you are, right? Wear the fun glasses and, wear the fun clothes. Be authentic, be you. Don't use qualifying language. And I can't say this enough. I hear women in the workplace do this often, especially in some of our tech and engineering meetings. They'll be like, I'm sorry to ask, but, this might sound like a silly question. Really take that qualifying language out of your vocabulary. And most of all, I would say have fun. This is a great field. It's a great journey. You'll make such a difference in the world, so have fun.
Yeah, I guess a few things I would say. One is just take every opportunity that you get. So when I was in FRC, I was both heavily involved in the mechanical team and on the business team. And I really loved working in the machine shop and getting my hands dirty. And that's why I ended up going into mechanical engineering. But some of the most valuable skills I learned was through the work I was doing in fundraising, talking to donors, learning how to write a business plan. So I would really encourage you all to take all those opportunities while you have them in such a unique space like FIRST. You don't get all those different types of skills in one place just anywhere. So I think definitely take advantage of that. And another thing, this is building off of what Leslie was saying, but just find your mentors starting now. I have mentors from my FRC team that I still talk to this day, who are really important and who really shaped my journey. And throughout my career in high school, in college, professors that I met, people I met through my internships, and now in my career, people I have met through working as a full-time employee. Those people have all shaped my career in different ways. And I find myself going back to them. And it's so important to build that network because 10 years down the line, you never know. They might want you on their team or you might want them on your team. So it's really important to kind of find those people and learn from them and give back and mentor when you can as well. So I think that's kind of what I would leave you with.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So one of the things that I would say is make sure that you're paying it forward and you're giving back by mentoring FIRST or Girls Who Code or any organization that exposes girls to STEM at an early age. And then I also want to reiterate to be confident in yourself when you're speaking. You know what you're talking about. You don't have to qualify yourself. And then lastly, something that I hear at BAE trainings all the time is if it scares you, you should do it. So it's really good to be able to take those opportunities that are offered to you. And even if it's something that's uncomfortable or it seems scary at the time, it's really going to be a good experience and you're going to learn from it. And even if you feel like you failed, fail forward. You're going to learn from it and you're going to do even better the next time.
That's so excellent. Thank you all for your insight there. So this has been a really informative discussion. Unfortunately, we're going to wrap things up. I think despite all the challenges that we've heard and what you guys have articulated through your journeys, what I really learned is that being a woman in a STEM field is important and that we're necessary in these fields to make a difference for the future. So want to thank you guys very much for being here and providing such valuable insight on this topic. Also want to thank all of our attendees. Hopefully you found it valuable as well. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this special Governor's Cup event and have a great afternoon.
NHTI was right in my community and it was affordable, and the advisors were great at working with me to create a schedule that worked with mine. When I first started, I was a single mother full-time of a little girl, and I actually was working 2 jobs. And in that 3 years, I also met my husband, got married, inherited a stepdaughter, and I have 2 more children. And on top of all of that, I have managed to maintain a nice high GPA, which allowed me to stay on the Honor Society when graduating. And I think the whole thing is attributed to the staff and the helpfulness of everybody here.
Coming out of high school, I never really thought that I'd be going to a community college. I went to a university for a year. I realized that I didn't want to study what I was studying. I started looking into what my passions were. My passion was architectural engineering. I did a little research and I found out about NHTI. I came in here and started applying, met the advisors, professors and everything, and I fell in love with the place.
The staff and faculty are so kind and they are so understanding, and they want to help their students 100%. And the Academic Center for Excellence is a great place that helps students who are struggling in certain things such as writing, math. There's so many different tools that you can use at this school to complete your degree.
After I graduate NHTI, I plan on continuing my education. I've had a lot of help from my advisors and directors on campus who provided me with those stepping stones and guided me on the right path to continue my dreams and aspirations.
My interest in machine learning has grown since my senior year in high school, and I wanted to research the application in a real-world scenario because so much of the research is done within simulations and video games. So I spoke to my mentor, Dr. Wei Lu, about applying this new technology to something useful, practical, and he said, why not network security, because that's actually his area of expertise. And I said, that sounds great, so we started right away. Well, at a high level, my research is how to apply machine learning to cybersecurity. And what machine learning is at a basic level, it's just how a computer system autonomously improves at a task over time. And specifically, I was interested in how to prevent intruders from entering the computer networks that you use every day and doing things like stealing your information or installing viruses. The objective is to build a computer system which learns the behavior and characteristics of malicious behavior on computer networks and prevents or blocks that behavior before even human experts become aware of the threat. So I've always been interested in computers, and that's why I became a computer science major, but I learned most of my skills in machine learning and continue to grow in that area within Keene State. I did not know anything about machine learning until I came here, and since I came here, my passion for it has grown, and that's what I'm planning to pursue going forward. So my plans going forward after I graduate in about a year's time is to hopefully work in the field of cybersecurity or medicine or anywhere that I can apply machine learning in a practical and meaningful way.
The college experience here is really good. It's close-knit community. It's really awesome. It's definitely different from a university where you could be 1 in 400 students. I have a class where there's like 8 of us, and so it's very one-on-one, very close-knit. You know who your professors are, you know the staff and faculty around campus, and you know most of the students too, whether they're in the same program as you are or not. You pass them in the hall, you can still say hi, and you know that they're there for you.
Well, I think it's a good launching ground because it's affordable right off the bat. For me, it's close to home, so I'm not really breaking the bank on finding an apartment or driving here every day. It's a good way just to start, whether it be a professional career or into a bigger school, and I find this is the perfect next step.
Transferring from White Mountains Community College is really easy. There's a lot of different pathways we've got, and knowing which classes to take is really accessible with the advisors leading you and giving you different options and telling you what would work best for you.
The classes are enjoyable, informational, my classmates are awesome, I have some pretty cool professors. And where else can you come using the newest equipment? Getting job offers. We've gotten multiple job offers already from when we graduate. So far, it's one of the best decisions I've made.
Plymouth State was definitely the best fit for me.
I have met the most amazing people. I've been given an extensive amount of opportunities that I'm so grateful for.
Every day I look forward to spending time with my friends because they're basically considered family at this point.
I have so many great memories at Plymouth State.
I love the laughs and the camaraderie from this past basketball season.
The campus is the perfect size and it's so easy to get around.
I'll never forget the first time I floated the Pemmy with my friends.
Every day here, there are more opportunities to learn and grow.
Plymouth State made me feel at home from the first visit.
I love Plymouth State because I feel like I belong here.
I feel home when I'm here.